Hey guys, it's me, Michelle from Gliss to Glam, and today we're going to talk about the cons to making a grad stole. Now, I am no pro at this, so I'm giving you guys feedback on the things that can happen and what to look out for so that way you don't make the same mistakes as me. Now, had I known certain things, I wouldn't have done it, or I would have looked a little harder at what I was doing. So I want to give this information to someone else to help someone else out so they don't waste money, waste a stole, waste paper, things like that. All right, so we're going to talk about a few different things. So the first thing we're going to talk about is ghosting. Ghosting can happen if you don't tape your stole down on the paper properly. Now, if you don't tape it down tightly to the point where there's no air, like little gaps of air, then you will get ghosting. And let me show you what ghosting look like, because this happened to me the other day and I was pretty pissed off about it because I was rushing and I didn't notice that I left a little spot open to where there wasn't any tape down. So this is what can happen. So if you see these letters, so it's only supposed to look like this line right here. So here you can see it drop to like some black. So that's ghosting right there. So what happened was, since I didn't tape it down properly, once the heat press comes up, it lifts the paper and then it creates like that double look. So that's number one, because we all have a problem with ghosting. Okay, so number two, burning. So you can actually burn the stole if you don't press with the proper time and temperature. So I tell everyone, make sure that wherever you buy your stoles from, look at what it says. Like, I was a big fan of going to different videos and, oh, that scared me. I was like, what's that noise? Because nobody's here. Sorry. Shh. Okay, so I'm a big fan of telling people to, when you get your product, make sure you look and see what the time and temperature says for that product and that website. I used to be real big on going to other people's videos and just seeing what their time and temperature was. And it's like, you can't do that. You have to look at the website wherever you buy your stuff. So for me, the ones that I've linked for you guys in my previous videos, I set mine at 400 for 60 minutes. 400 for 60 seconds. Jesus Christ. So for 60 seconds, that worked out perfectly for me, and I don't get any burning. And so what I mean by burning is, say if your stole is black and you put too much heat on it, it'll look brown and it'll be burnt. And so if you don't use enough heat, it'll look gray. So in order to achieve that just straight black look, you have to use the correct time and temperature. Okay, number three, cold spots. Now, cold spots is where your heat press is not distributing enough like heat evenly. So if you have, like, I had a heat press like this before, or when you use that Cricut brand heat press where you like push down on it. Now, if you're not pushing down hard enough, or if your heat press is not working properly, it will make cold spots on anything that you make. And this can happen with a grad stole. Even though the grad stole is super duper flat, it will still happen. Now, I don't have any that I messed up so I can show you what it looks like. And I don't want to just go searching and grabbing it from somebody else, because it's a little weird and it's mean. But how you'll notice it, because it's like, say you have a red or black stole or whatever, and it's supposed to be a solid red or a solid black. You'll see like black, 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 and then white, and then black, 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 black. So that's how you know that your heat press is not producing heat throughout the whole thing. And you'll notice it because you'll start to see it in the same exact spot. It will happen in the same exact spot. And that's how you know that your heat press is going out. Okay, number four, misalignment. Now, you want to make sure that your measurements are correct when you are working in Photoshop, Canva, wherever it is that you're doing your designing. You want to make sure that your alignments are correct, and you want to make sure that you measure your stoles. I cannot say this enough. Even the ones that I link to you, make sure you measure it, because I honestly, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I've noticed I've re-upped about 4 or 5 times now, and I noticed in that second re-up, like the second time I ordered from the same company, I noticed that they were slightly smaller than the last batch that I got. And it was only just like a couple of them in there that was like that. And I get it. It's like nobody's perfect. No company is perfect. My company isn't even perfect. So it's like you have to measure it. Like, don't be lazy doing this. Like, that misalignment will mess you up. And let me tell you how. Because there's 2 ways you can misalign your stoles. One, when you're editing them in whatever design space that you're using. And 2, when you're laying the stoles down on the paper. Like, these are, even though these are white, when you lay it down on the paper, it has so much color to it, you can actually see through it. So when you're laying your stole down, just take a couple of seconds just to make sure that you are lining it up properly, because what can happen is this. Now, this is when I actually messed up from misalignment, and it's because I was rushing and I was trying to get this out before I went home. I live somewhere else. My craft room is at my mom's house. So I was ready to go home and my alignment was not right. Now, even though the rest of this no, it actually does not look okay, because you can see, you know how I was telling you in that last video to make sure you just leave a little bit of space. See, with these type of pictures, I actually could have went out more, and that was what I was planning on doing. However, I shifted my paper over on accident, and you can see, because I cut this girl's head off, she was not supposed to be over that far. And another sign that told me I was misaligned was the letter or the word 1. You see how the 1 is not centered? It's more to this side. So misalignment will mess you up. So even though, you know how sometimes there's some of those things that your customers won't be able to tell you, she would have been able to tell this, and I'm pretty sure she would have had me make it again. So that's number 4. Okay, number 5, uneven press marks. Now, I know sometimes you get a little excited and you want to like manually get your heat press together and, you know, raise it up and like hurry up and take it out so you can see what it looks like. Don't do that. Now, what I mean by these uneven press marks is when you're working on something, and I used to do this, when you're working on something with a heat press, don't walk away from it. Just don't. Just do not. I understand you want to multitask and, you know, do this and do that, and, you know, but it does not, that you should not do that, because see, my press is auto. So when it's done, it raises up. Now, some of you guys have that clamshell or the swivel one, and when the time is up, you'll be on the other side of the room or in the kitchen flipping chicken or whatever it is that you're doing, or going to the bathroom, and you're going to sit there and let it keep pressing. Now, that still goes back into burning, but it also comes into that uneven press marks, because what will happen is, since you left that one on for a longer period of time, it may not have burned. However, your colors are going to look different when you pull the rest of your stole through the heat press, and it does it for the correct amount of time. And then you're going to start getting those uneven marks. So you're going to start seeing like press lines. You're going to see discoloration and things like that. So you really don't want that. Number 6, not measuring your length correctly. So not having enough room at the top or at the bottom for all your color to show. Now, if you're doing those full color stoles, you want to make sure you measure it right, and you want to over measure. So that way you have more room at the end and more room at the top. So let me show you what happened. I don't have one that I messed up like that, because I don't do full color stoles like that. It's every once in a while I'll do it when I'm in like a good mood and I feel like everything's going to go correctly. I'm good and I'll make one. However, if you do decide to do that, you want to make sure you measure your stole, and you want to make sure you're like an inch more than the length that you need it to be. So that way, like I said, you have more room at the bottom and more room at the top. Because let me show you what happened. Say I measured this, right? And it's supposed to be 30, 37. But say I measured it wrong and I measured it from here and not here. Now, once I go in with my paper is only about this long. You thinking they won't notice it, but if you press it like this and you have a full color red stole, they're gonna see white at the top. So make sure you have enough room at the top and at the bottom. Number 7. The next ones I'm doing, the next examples I'm going to give you, I'm actually going to show you. Y'all might think I'm crazy for printing out some paper and wasting ink and wasting paper. But anyway, I wanted to show you better than I can tell you. Now, number 7. Let me look down and see what we do. Okay, number 7. Not pre-pressing your stoles. So, since I don't go all the way to the top on majority of my stoles anyway, I can care less about, like, you know, pressing here at the top. However, if you're one of those people that's going to do full color stoles, you want to pre-press. And you need to pre-press it really, really, really good. So you want to pre-press it to where it looks like this, not like that. Now, when you're putting it on the press, I know sometimes you got to struggle a little bit with, you know, it like laying flat and see, that's why I don't fool with the full color ones. Like I said, every once in a while I'll do it, but I don't do it that often. So what I have learned though is that if you don't do it right, you'll have some issues. So if you don't pre-press, or if you do pre-press and you still have these wrinkles, let me show you what's gonna happen. So none of this is going to be perfect. And like I said, I'm not going to pre-press this because I want you to see how it's going to look when you don't pre-press it correctly. So I'm going to use this. And so I'm just going to put it up here where it's not pre-pressed. And I'm going to put a piece of tape on here. You have to get all those wrinkles and crinkles out, because if you don't, it is just going to be messed up. All right, so let's put a piece of parchment paper down, because you need that. And let's lay our stole down. Okay, 60 seconds. All right, so we're all finished pressing that, and this is hot. Okay. Now. Okay, so look it. So since I didn't pre-press it correctly, this is what happens. You get discoloration on the wrinkle. So even though it's not that bad, it's really not that bad. But honestly, when it's not that bad on video, but when you're looking at it, you can see those ripples. And it's hard to get those ripples out, because then after you see the ripples and then you try to go back in the heat press and try to flatten it some more. Once it gets all the way flat like the rest of the stole, then you'll start seeing all the white markings. You see? I did a good but a bad job at this. Does that make sense? And since I mentioned parchment paper, this brings me to number 8. So number 8, not switching out that parchment paper. Now, when you're doing a stole, and if you're only doing them, one-sided or whatever, so it's this way, you want the back to be, white. You don't want it to be any other color. So let me tell you what happens when you don't switch out your parchment paper. So since I just pressed this little part right here, since it wasn't lined up correctly, it left red marks on my parchment paper. Now, I know some of you love to keep using the same parchment paper, but me personally, I don't like any mistakes. I don't like wasting material. I don't like doing stuff over, especially these. Since I have a smaller printer, I don't want to do this over. So what happens is when you don't switch this parchment paper out and you go back in like this and you lay it over that ink part of the parchment paper, let me show you what happens. Even this part, you probably can't see it here. Oh yeah, you can. You see how it's like pinkish right there? So from that red color. So say you take this same parchment paper and put it right on top of that next part that you're gonna press. Let me show you exactly what happens. Don't do that, girl. Look, I be trying to have fun because it's late. What time is it? 9:45. I'm ready to go home. All right, so since this part had a little bit of red on it, so say like this part of the stove was red, and then this part was white with like letters, you can see pink. It's a hint of red. And then we ain't even gonna talk about the back. So since you didn't change this bottom page of parchment paper that had that red on it, let me show you what happened. Now you have red on the back. Don't even do it. Just switch out the parchment paper. Matter of fact, let me show you this. And I got this from the Dollar Tree. The Dollar Tree has these pre-cut parchment paper. This has been a blessing, let me tell you, because I can't stand standing over here and ripping and ripping and ripping and ripping and ripping. So with this, they come pre-cut, same size. You just pull it out and go. Pull it out and go. That's all you gotta do. Easy peasy, right? So let's not make that mistake of getting the ink on the back side of the stove when it doesn't even need to happen. Okay, number 9. This is for my smaller printer people, and this includes me also, because I have a smaller printer. I don't have the wide format printer, so I'm using an 8.5 by 11 printer to make my Grad stoves. It's been fine with me. I'm saving up to buy a bigger press, but right now this is how, sorry, I got a message. But right now this is how it's gonna be. So number 9, not lining your paper up correctly or thinking that you can get away with just cutting it right at the mark and then just lining it up that way. That does not work. So cutting it not going into Canva or whatever design space that you're using and going in and doing the overlap method. I have tried it the other way several times, and you might think you have a steady hand at cutting and thinking that you right on the tip top, right on the dot. I'm trying to tell you, it's not going to work. You are either going to leave some white when you cut, or you're going to cut off too much and it's not going to line up. I'm trying to tell you, do not waste your time doing that. Maybe some of you have accomplished that. I don't see how. However, I have not been able to do it, and that's why I offered that on the video, so the people with smaller printers know how to overlap and cut it all up for that way, so that way you can tape it together and go from there. Now, another part of number 9 is when you do your overlap. So number 9 is basically not lining the pictures up correctly. Not lining your pages up correctly, excuse me. So if you do the overlap method and you start lining stuff up, now make sure you're paying really good attention, because see, from back here, it looks fine, right? right? Yeah. But when you get up close, you can see the nose is off, and so is the side of the cheek. Okay? And so is the whisker. So make sure you're lining, make sure you are lining it up correctly like you're supposed to, because people will notice that. You're going to notice it. And if you try to get away with it and you send it to your customer anyway, they will say something. I kid you not. When you send the mock-ups and they see it one way and then you press it a different way, they are definitely going to say something. And I put this on everything. The second that these customers get these stoles, they go just like this. I had a lady do it in front of me the other day. She came over here to get it, and she went just like this. That's exactly what she did. And I was sitting up there almost shaking like a leaf, because I'm like, man, did I double check everything? I'm like, I really hope I did everything right. Okay. Number 10, spray adhesive. Now, I've used spray adhesive a few times, and depending on, I don't know, it's like sometimes I use it and sometimes I don't. It's like a, I don't know, it's one day I do, one day I don't. I don't know why I don't, or why I do. I have no clue. I don't even have an answer for that. However, if you do decide to use adhesive spray, you can run into issues. So the first issue that you might run into is you're spraying too closely to the stole. Now, when you spray too, when you spray too close, you'll get, you'll get those spots. You see those spots? Right in this area. So look here. Those are adhesive spray spots. Now, let me show you what adhesive spray I was using. So this is the one I was using, the Elmer's. There's nothing wrong with it. Like I said, you might end up running into issues though. Like sometimes when I make the stoles, I don't have any issues at all. And then sometimes when I do use it, I notice that I get these spots. And then it doesn't feel as smooth as the rest of the stole either. So since like mine's, I go up to about right here. Up here, it feels super smooth, but the rest of this feels rough. However, even though that might happen, if you just go get a rag, a warm rag, and wipe this down, you won't see it and you won't feel it anymore. That's the only downfall to using the adhesive spray. You're going to have to clean up after yourself sometimes. There's been a few times where I've used it and I've had no issues at all and it still felt super soft. It's like, and then there's been times I've used it where I do get those spots and it feels rough. And I have to go get a wet paper towel, like a warm, but make sure it's warm. Get a warm paper towel and then just kind of like, just go like this and just keep wiping it. And then you'll see, it's like, you'll see like little glue come off of it. So I mean, that's a personal preference. You can use it if you want. I've used it on when I made car freshies. I've sprayed the car freshies and then, you know, put the paper down on it because I didn't want to use all that tape. And I didn't see any residue then, but that's a whole different type of material also. So just keep in mind when you're using adhesive spray that you might have to wipe it down with a warm rag. Now, the thing with adhesive spray is that it's like you got to time it just right. And sometimes I just don't be having time for that. So if I got to come in here and I got to press like 8 or 9 stoles, I'm not going to use that spray because I don't have time to monitor and see and make sure I time it right and then I have to wipe them all up. I don't feel like doing that. So, and what I mean by like timing it right, I'm saying like sometimes you got to be at the right distance and you got to lay that paper down at the right time. I notice sometimes if I let it sit too long, that's when I get the residue. And then sometimes if I do it too fast and I spray too close, I get residue. So it's just like, sometimes I just don't feel like dealing with that. Like if I got one stole that I need to press and I'm like, okay, you know what? I really just need this to lay down. I don't feel like using all that tape, or if I ran out of tape for the day and I don't feel like going to go get some, then sometimes I might use a spray, and that's just something I have to deal with. But like I said, it's a personal preference. So you can still use the adhesive spray because plenty of people do it and have no issues. But this is the issues that I've run into, that I'm putting it out there because this is stuff that I don't see other people talk about. We see these videos of people doing stuff perfectly and they're just like, oh yeah, you know, I made this, how cute, da, 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 da. And then it's just like, then you see a ton of people in the comments that's like, well, this is the issue that I have. Like, how do I fix this? So this is why I'm putting it out there, the common mistakes that can be made with grad stoles. I hope this helps somebody. I hope you don't run into this mess. If you do, this is a video to help you get through it and to know that you are human. We all make mistakes. Whether you see it or not on these YouTube videos, mistakes happen. Trust me. Nobody's perfect. So that's going to end our, I was about to say this is a tutorial. No, it's not. This is the common mistakes that can happen when you're making a grad stole. I hope this helps somebody. And stay tuned. Like, comment, share, subscribe. You're going to see more of this. Anytime I run into issues and I read comments. That's one thing about me. I'm reading the comments. If somebody asks me to make a video on something because they need help, I'm going to make the video. So don't be scared. Leave a comment. You're not getting on my nerve. Come to my Instagram, ask questions, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. And I will see you guys next time. Bye, y'all.